No one in the galaxy noticed the human at first. That was the first mistake. The battlefield above the shattered moon of Karos Prime was already a graveyard. Alien cruisers burned silently in vacuum. Defense platforms drifted like broken bones. The war between the Virel Dominion and the Coalition had ended hours ago, and humans had lost, again. They were always the smallest force, always underestimated, always left behind when the real powers finished fighting. Lieutenant Ethan Cross floated among the wreckage of his ruined drop pod, oxygen leaking in slow, final breaths. His suit alarms had gone quiet. Not because things were fine. Because there was nothing left to warn him about. Ethan knew he was dying. His left side was numb. His ribs were shattered. A shard of alien plasma glass had pierced his chest and fused to the armor, glowing faintly as it cooled. Every breath felt like dragging fire through broken lungs. The stars above him blurred, not from motion, but from his vision failing. He laughed once. Weak. Bitter. So this is how humans exit the galaxy, he whispered. Quietly. That was when the shadows moved. At first, Ethan thought it was just debris rotating. Then the darkness pulled itself together, bending starlight in a way that physics didn't like. A figure emerged from nothingness, boots touching the hull of a destroyed cruiser as if gravity had politely decided to exist for her alone. She was tall, pale, elegant, not human. Her armor was smooth and dark, etched with faint crimson lines that pulsed like veins. Her eyes glowed a deep, predatory red, calm and ancient. Long black hair floated around her like ink in water, and when she looked at Ethan, it felt as if she was not seeing his body, but his remaining time. She tilted her head. A human, she said softly. Still alive. Curious. Ethan tried to raise his weapon. His arm didn't respond. Figures, he thought. Don't bother, she continued, drifting closer. If I wanted you dead, you'd already be dust. She crouched beside him in the vacuum, completely unaffected, her fingers hovering just above the cracked plating of his suit. Where her shadow fell, the cold of space retreated. Ethan swallowed blood. Then, what are you? He asked. Her lips curved slightly. My people call us the Sanguari. Your people call us myths. She leaned in, close enough that he could see his own reflection in her eyes. We drink life. Ethan exhaled slowly. Great. I survive a war just to get eaten by a space vampire. That made her pause. Then she laughed. A soft, amused sound. You humans are strange, she said. Even while dying, you joke. Her gaze dropped to the wound in his chest. Her expression shifted, not hunger, but calculation. You should already be dead, she murmured. That shard pierced your heart. Ethan blinked. It missed. No, she corrected. It didn't. Her fingers pressed lightly against his armor. Pain exploded through him, then vanished. He gasped as warmth flooded his body, spreading outward like a second heartbeat. The Sanguari woman stiffened. That's impossible, she whispered. Ethan felt it too. Something inside him refused to stop. His heart was beating. Slow. Strong. Wrong. She pulled her hand back, staring at him now as if he were the mystery. A human heart does not resist death, she said. Not without augmentation. Not without ritual. Ethan forced a breath. Guess, we're full of surprises. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant crackle of dying ships. Finally, she spoke again. My name is Velith. She removed one gauntlet, revealing pale skin traced with faint red light beneath. Without hesitation, she pressed her thumb to her own fang and sliced it open. Dark crimson blood welled instantly, glowing faintly as if alive. Ethan's eyes widened. What are you? If I do nothing, Velith said, calmly, you will die in minutes. If I give you my blood, you will not. He laughed weakly. And the catch? Her eyes hardened. My blood does not heal, she said. It changes. She leaned closer. You will never be human again. You will never age. And every power in the galaxy will hunt you once they sense what you've become. She hovered over him, blood drifting like a living thing between them. This is forbidden, she added. Even for my kind. Ethan looked at the stars one last time. Then back at her. Well, he said, voice steady despite everything, humans are pretty good at surviving forbidden things. Velith studied him for a long moment. Then she pressed her bleeding thumb to the breach in his armor. The universe screamed. Heat tore through Ethan's body, rewriting him cell by cell. His broken bones knit together. His heart ignited like a star going nova, beating with power that felt ancient and new all at once. Velith recoiled, eyes wide. The blood didn't stop at healing. It bonded. It adapted. She felt it instantly. Her blood wasn't changing him. He was changing it. Far across the battlefield, hidden sensors flared to life. Ancient systems awakened. And deep within the galactic network, alarms began to scream. A new signal had appeared. Human. Immortal. And completely unknown. Velith stared at Ethan, fear and awe mixing in her eyes. What have I done? She whispered. Ethan opened his eyes. They glowed faintly red. I think, he said slowly, standing up in vacuum without a suit breach killing him, you just saved the wrong human. Ethan Cross should not have been alive. That thought echoed through the bridge of the alien dreadnought as Velith guided him through corridors carved from black crystal and living metal. The ship responded to her presence, walls pulsing faintly red as if sensing blood royalty. Yet every few steps, the systems hesitated, confused by the human walking beside her. Ethan felt it too. The universe felt louder. He could hear the hum of the ship's power core through the floor. He could feel distant gravity fluctuations, tiny ripples in space-time brushing against his skin. His chest no longer hurt. In fact, his body felt lighter, stronger, as if gravity itself was optional now. He flexed his hand. The shattered bones that should have crippled him were gone. The skin over his chest was smooth, unbroken, except for faint crimson veins that faded in and out like breathing light. Velith noticed. Her steps slowed. You should be screaming, she said quietly. Most who survive the blood do. Ethan looked at her. I did. On the inside. She stopped fully now, turning to face him. Her red eyes scanned him with something close to unease. No, she said. You adapted. That bad. That unheard of. They reached a wide chamber filled with floating holograms, star maps, fleet movements, political borders drawn in light. At the center hovered a massive crimson symbol, slowly rotating. Velith waved her hand, sealing the room. The moment my blood entered you, she said, every sanguinary sensor within 3 sectors felt it. That symbol means a blood anomaly. Ethan frowned. Anomaly sounds polite. It is not. She folded her arms, ears twitching slightly, a sign of stress, he realized. The sanguinary are feared because our blood grants power, she continued. But it obeys rules. It reshapes those who are compatible. It consumes those who are not. She looked him straight in the eyes. It obeyed you. Ethan leaned against a console, processing that. So I didn't just survive. I broke your science. Velith gave a dry smile. You shattered it. Before either could speak again, the ship shuddered. Alarms flared crimson. A cold, synthetic voice echoed through the chamber. Warning. Long-range detection confirmed. Dominion Harvest Fleet entering system. Velith cursed softly. They're fast, she muttered. Too fast. Ethan straightened. Who are they? The Virel Dominion, she replied. The same ones who crushed your forces here. They collect weapons, worlds, and anything they don't understand. Her gaze flicked back to him. Especially you. The hologram shifted, showing massive angular ships tearing out of hyperspace. Their hulls were studded with spines and glowing sigils, old, brutal designs meant to inspire fear. Ethan felt something stir inside him. Not fear. Focus. How long until they reach us? He asked. Velith hesitated. Minutes. Can we run? She shook her head. They'll track my blood signature. And now, yours. Ethan studied the map. Human training kicked in, battlefield awareness, pattern recognition, improvisation under pressure. The Dominion fleet moved in rigid formations, predictable and confident. They assume we're prey, he said. Velith raised an eyebrow. You're injured, untrained in this body, and facing a fleet that eats suns. Ethan smiled faintly. They assume that too. He stepped closer to the hologram. Your ship. How does it fight? Velith blinked. Excuse me. I need to know what tools we have, he pressed. Weapons. Shields. Anything strange or experimental. She stared at him for a second, then answered. The Eclipse is not a warship, she said. It's fast, stealth-capable, and armed enough to discourage pirates. Nothing more. Ethan nodded. Good. That's good. Yes, he said. Because that means they won't expect what comes next. He pointed to the projected battlefield. These ships rely on energy shields layered in harmonic frequencies, right? Velitha's eyes narrowed. Yes. That technology predates your species by millennia. Human tech doesn't, Ethan said. We don't harmonize. We overload. She tilted her head. Explain. We never had the luxury of elegant solutions, he said simply. So we learned how to break things by being stubborn. Another alarm flared. Enemy fleet deploying scan net, the AI announced. Velith looked between Ethan and the approaching threat. You are suggesting, she said slowly, that a half-dead human with borrowed blood has a plan my people never considered. Ethan met her gaze. I'm suggesting you let humanity do what it does best when cornered. She studied him, then made a decision. Eclipse, she said sharply. Transfer partial command access to Ethan Cross. There was a pause. Objection, the AI replied. Probability of catastrophic failure, high. Override, Velith snapped. Override accepted, the AI said reluctantly. Human, do not break me. No promises, Ethan muttered. Data flooded his vision, not through screens, but directly into his mind. He gasped, staggering as his enhanced brain processed alien systems at impossible speed. Velith grabbed his arm. Easy. I'm fine, he said, breathing hard. Just thinking faster than I used to. He focused, then smiled. Oh, he said softly. That's beautiful. What? Velith asked. Your stealth field, Ethan said. It bends detection around mass and energy. Yes. But it doesn't account for absence, he continued. You never designed it to look empty. Velitha's eyes widened. You're insane. Welcome to humanity. The Dominion fleet closed in. Massive cannons charged. Targeting locks snapped onto the Eclipse. Ethan raised his hand. Cut all emissions, he said. Dump power into the stealth field. Then, vent atmosphere. Velith stared at him. That will make us appear dead. Exactly. Moments later, the Eclipse went dark. To the Dominion sensors, the ship vanished, not cloaked, not hidden, but gone. No heat. No power. No life. The fleet slowed. Confusion rippled through their formations. Then Ethan smiled. Now, he said, eyes glowing faintly, we move. The Eclipse surged forward, riding the blind spot of its own absence, slipping straight through the heart of the enemy formation. Dominion ships collided, firing on ghosts. And for the first time in recorded galactic history, a human-led vessel passed unharmed through a Virel harvest fleet. Velith stared at Ethan in stunned silence. Human, she whispered, what did you just do? Ethan watched the chaos unfold behind them. I reminded the galaxy, he said, why you should never underestimate a species that evolved by refusing to die. Far away, Dominion commanders reeled. Their sensors replayed the data again and again. The impossible maneuver. The unknown signal. The human who should not exist. And across the stars, fear began to spread. Not of the sanguari, but of humanity. The galaxy noticed. It did not happen all at once. There was no single alarm, no grand announcement that echoed across the stars. Instead, it began the way all great disasters did, with whispers, corrupted data packets, and commanders arguing with machines that had never been wrong before. On the bridge of a Dominion command ship, an officer stared at the replay for the 20th time. It vanished, he hissed. Not cloaked. Not destroyed. It ceased. The sensor tech shook his head, mandibles clicking nervously. Negative. It moved. Our systems failed to perceive it. That is not possible. Neither is a human surviving sanguari blood, the tech replied. Silence followed. Across trade hubs, military networks, and black market relays, the same impossible signal circulated. A new biological signature. Part human. Part sanguari. Entirely unstable. Entirely unprecedented. The analysts gave it a designation. Anomaly Prime. And then they attached a bounty so large it destabilized 3 economies. Ethan felt the shift before anyone told him. The Eclipse glided through deep space, engines whisper quiet, but his senses stretched far beyond the hull. He could feel a tension now, like pressure behind the eyes. Not psychic, not mystical. Something subtler. Pattern recognition. Predator awareness. He stood alone near the viewing canopy, arms crossed, watching a blue-white nebula roll like a frozen storm. They're talking about me, he said calmly. Velith, seated nearby, stiffened. You can hear encrypted transmissions now. No, Ethan replied. I can feel intent. She looked at him sharply. That is not a sanguari trait. He shrugged. Humans read danger for a living. She studied him longer this time. You're changing faster than you should. Is that bad? Yes, she said honestly. And impressive. The AI broke in. Incoming tight beam message. Origin masked. Signal encoded through 7 outlaw relays. Velith sighed. That means trouble. Put it through, Ethan said. The hologram flickered, resolving into a distorted figure cloaked in static. Multiple eyes. Artificial limbs. A voice layered with filters. Anomaly Prime, it said. You are requested. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Requested. You have disrupted several power balances, the figure continued. Some wish to kill you. Others wish to own you. A few wish to worship you. Velith growled softly. We offer sanctuary, the figure said. Knowledge. Protection. In exchange for study. Ethan smiled faintly. No. The hologram glitched. You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. Ethan leaned closer. Actually, it is. You just forgot the human part. He reached out and crushed the hologram emitter in his hand. Silence returned. Velith stared. You just insulted the Tricabal. Never heard of them, Ethan replied. That's usually a bad sign for them. She shook her head slowly. You are becoming dangerous. Ethan met her gaze. I was dangerous before. Now I'm just harder to kill. They reached the edge of neutral space hours later. A station drifted there, massive, ancient, and scarred by centuries of conflict. Haven Coil, a place where laws went to die and deals were born. The moment the Eclipse docked, Ethan felt it again. Eyes. Watching. Don't leave my side, Velith said quietly as they stepped onto the station. Word travels fast here. I thought humans were rare out here, Ethan replied. We are, she said. Which makes you valuable. The station was chaos given structure. Aliens of every shape and size moved through layered walkways. Traders shouted. Mercenaries watched. Information brokers smiled too much. And every single one of them felt Ethan. Not consciously. Instinctively. A predator had entered the market. They had barely gone 10 steps when it happened. A blur of motion. A weapon discharge. A sonic crack meant to liquefy internal organs. Velith spun. Too slow. Ethan moved. He didn't think. He didn't plan. He stepped forward and caught the attacker's wrist mid-strike. The alien assassin froze, eyes wide, as Ethan's grip tightened. The sonic weapon collapsed in on itself. The station went silent. Ethan looked at the would-be killer. You should have brought friends. The alien tried to pull free. Ethan lifted him and slammed him into the deck hard enough to crater reinforced alloy. The assassin did not get up. No blood. No spectacle. Just overwhelming force applied with perfect control. The silence deepened. Velith stared at Ethan, her expression unreadable. You didn't drink, she said slowly. You didn't frenzy. Ethan flexed his hand. I didn't need to. Station security arrived moments later, weapons raised, uncertain. Ethan raised his hands calmly. He attacked first, Ethan said. Check your feeds. They did. Then they lowered their weapons. Whispers rippled through the station. Human. Immortal. Controlled. That was worse. Later, in a quiet compartment overlooking the station core, Velith confronted him. You resisted instinct, she said. Even Sanguari elders struggle with that. Ethan looked out at the stars. Humans learned restraint early. We had to. Otherwise, we'd have wiped ourselves out. She was quiet for a long moment. You are not becoming Sanguari, she said finally. Ethan turned to her. What am I becoming? Velith met his eyes. Something new, she said. Something the galaxy has no rulebook for. Far away, fleets mobilized. Scientists argued. Religions fractured. And in the hidden depths of ancient space, something old and powerful awakened, drawn by a signal it had not felt since the galaxy was young. A human signal. Unyielding. Adaptive. Immortal. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy did not ask what humanity wanted. It asked what humanity would do next. The hunters did not announce themselves. They never did. Across Haven Coil, power fluctuations rippled through the station's core. Lights dimmed. Gravity wavered for half a second, just long enough for experienced fighters to know something very bad had arrived. Ethan felt it instantly. Lockdown, he said. Velith was already moving. Too late. The station's outer sensors went dark one by one, not destroyed, but silenced. Something was cutting perception itself, carving blind zones through space. Velith's voice dropped. The Null Choir. Ethan frowned. That sounds poetic. It isn't, she replied. They are not a species. They are a solution. Before he could ask more, the air in front of them folded. Not warped. Folded. 3 figures stepped through reality as if exiting a doorway no one else could see. Tall. Thin. Wrapped in layered armor that drank in light. Their faces were hidden behind smooth masks etched with symbols that hurt to look at. No weapons visible. Which meant they were the weapons. Every instinct Ethan had screamed at once. Not panic. Calculation. Velith moved half a step in front of him. They were created to erase anomalies, she whispered. They have killed gods. One of the figures tilted its head. Designation Anomaly Prime, it said, voice perfectly flat. Your existence destabilizes projected outcomes. Ethan met its gaze. Story of my life. The figure raised a hand. Reality buckled. Velith was thrown backward, smashing into a bulkhead hard enough to crack it. Ethan barely moved, his feet dug into the deck, muscles adapting instantly, compensating for force that should have turned him into mist. That surprised them. The second figure shifted. Resistance detected, it said. Ethan rolled his shoulders. Yeah. Humans do that. He moved. Not forward. Sideways. He stepped into the space between moments. Something inside him clicked, not instinct, not bloodlust, but pattern mastery. He felt the folds in space, the stress lines of the attack, and stepped where the universe was weakest. The null choir struck. Ethan wasn't there. He appeared behind one of them and drove his fist into its back. There was no explosion. No drama. Just a sound like glass meeting thunder. The figure hit the deck and stayed there. Silence. Velith stared, stunned. That one doesn't get back up. The remaining two adjusted instantly, movements becoming faster, sharper, coordinated. Adaptation confirmed, they said together. Ethan smiled. So is mine. They attacked again, blades of compressed gravity slicing the air, fields of null energy tearing at matter itself. Ethan dodged, blocked, redirected. Not because he was stronger, but because he learned while fighting. Every strike taught him something. Every mistake rewrote his limits. Velith dragged herself upright, blood glowing faintly at her lip. Ethan, if they synchronize fully, they will erase you. He glanced at her. Calm. Focused. Then don't let them finish, he said. She hesitated. Then did something no Sanguari had done in centuries. She trusted a human. Velith leapt into the fight, her movements blinding, blood abilities flaring like crimson lightning. She didn't overpower the null choir. She distracted them. That was all Ethan needed. He stopped fighting them head-on. Instead, he changed the battlefield. He reached out, not physically, but conceptually, and grabbed the station's gravity grid. His mind interfaced with systems never meant for human thought. Eclipse, he whispered through the link. I need a favor. Dislike noted, the AI replied. Proceed. Gravity reversed. Not all of it. Just enough. The null choir faltered for a fraction of a second. Ethan struck. He drove both remaining figures through the deck, down into the station's substructure, pinning them inside a pocket of compressed reality that fed on their own null fields. They did not scream. They simply ended. The station was silent again. Velith stared at the crater. You used infrastructure as a weapon, she said slowly. Ethan exhaled. Humans weaponize everything. Across the galaxy, alarms triggered again. Not for Anomaly Prime. For the null choir's extinction-level failure. Systems flagged the impossible. Probability models collapsed. For the first time, the galaxy's predictive engines produced a single unified result. Humanity was no longer a variable. It was a force. And somewhere deep in ancient space, the thing that had been watching since the first stars ignited finally moved. Because if a human could kill the galaxy's executioners, then the old rulers were no longer safe. The ancient one woke without sound. There was no roar, no dramatic tearing of space. Just a shift, subtle, deliberate, like a mind opening its eyes after a very long sleep. In the deep dark beyond mapped space, where stars were sparse and time behaved strangely, something vast adjusted its attention. It had many names once. Most were forgotten. All were feared. It had shaped civilizations, guided wars, erased species that grew too unpredictable. And now, something new had appeared. A human who refused to break. Ethan felt it before the galaxy understood it. Not as fear. As pressure. The Eclipse drifted away from Haven Coil, silent and clean, leaving behind a station still whispering his name. Velith stood beside him at the viewing canopy, arms folded, ears twitching faintly. You feel it too, she said. Yeah, Ethan replied. Like someone just leaned forward in their chair. The AI spoke next, voice unusually restrained. Multiple deep space structures activating. Energy signatures predate recorded history. Velith went still. No, she whispered. They are myths. They always are, Ethan said. Until they aren't. The stars ahead twisted. Space unfolded, not tearing, not collapsing, but opening, like a curtain drawn back by something that owned the stage. It arrived. Not a ship. Not a creature. A presence. A lattice of light and void the size of a small moon, layered with impossible geometry. It did not move through space. Space moved around it. Ethan felt its attention lock onto him. Human, it spoke, not aloud, but directly into every system, every mind, every layer of reality. You deviate. Velith dropped to one knee, body trembling under pressure older than her species. Ethan stayed standing. Yeah, he said calmly. We do that. The presence pulsed. You carry forbidden power, it continued. You destabilize equilibrium. This galaxy survives through balance. Ethan crossed his arms. Funny. From where I'm standing, your balance looks a lot like control. Silence stretched. You were not chosen, the presence said. You were an accident. Ethan nodded once. So was fire. Worked out pretty well for us. The presence shifted, light folding inward. You will submit, it declared. Or be unmade. Velith looked up sharply. Ethan. He raised a hand, gently. Let me handle this. He stepped forward, into nothing, and felt reality part for him without resistance. That made the ancient presence hesitate. You should not be able to do that, it said. Ethan smiled. Humans hear that a lot. He didn't threaten it. Didn't attack it. He explained. He showed it human history, not as conquest, but persistence. Fragile bodies surviving harsh worlds. Curiosity driving exploration. Cooperation defeating extinction. Failure. Adaptation. Retry. Again. 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 You built systems to maintain order, Ethan said. We built ourselves to survive chaos. The presence absorbed the data in silence. For eons, it said slowly, we culled instability to preserve existence. And how many voices did you silence doing that? Ethan asked. No answer. Ethan stepped closer, crimson light faint in his eyes. Not hunger, not dominance, but certainty. You don't need to erase us, he said. You need to stop pretending you're the only thing holding the galaxy together. The presence pulsed again. Slower this time. Human, it said, what do you seek? Ethan didn't hesitate. A seat at the table, he said. Not as pets. Not as weapons. As partners. The Ancient One considered. Then, something no one expected, it withdrew. Not defeated. Not destroyed. Watching. Humanity will be observed, it declared. Not constrained. The stars returned to normal. The pressure vanished. Velith collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. You negotiated with it. Ethan exhaled slowly. We've been negotiating with impossible odds since we learned how to stand. Across the galaxy, systems updated. Threat classifications changed. Doctrine rewrote itself. Humans were no longer marked as expendable auxiliaries. They were listed as strategic equals. Some species feared it. Others welcomed it. Many didn't understand it. But all of them felt it. A shift. Velith looked at Ethan, something like pride in her eyes. What will you do now? She asked. Ethan looked out at the stars, vast, dangerous, full of opportunity. Same thing humans always do, he said. Explore. Build. Protect our own. He paused, then added, and make sure the galaxy remembers one thing. Velith smiled faintly. What's that? Ethan's reflection stared back at him from the glass. Human, immortal, unyielding. That we're not afraid of the dark, he said. We were born learning how to survive in it. The eclipse turned toward open space. Toward a future no longer written by ancient rulers, but by humanity.